Hello, and welcome to Talk the Thrones. I'm Chris Ryan. I'm joined as always by Joanna Robinson and a Daeron Targaryen coin collector. Yeah. It's Mallory Rubin.
She would.
We are here to break down the 5th episode of the 3rd season of House of the Dragon right after this. You can check out Mal and Joe going deep on this episode on House of R on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. Andy and I will casually and superficially chat about it on Monday on The Watch. We're going to get into this episode with the recap.
I'm excited.
Right after this.
Feeling any unusual pressure today after Joanna's 10 out of 10 no notes performance?
This has been a time of the Ringer where people are trying out for other people's gigs, and it's really exciting. You know?
Yeah, you've been sitting in the BS chair.
Exactly.
It's just like, so we'll see how everything shakes out, and then I'll answer your question. No, you were amazing. All the CR cosplay was very, very touching. Look, this episode felt a little bit more like jumping into a Ken Burns documentary midway through for me, and then telling myself that I would pick things up on the fly. We've got the Black Alliance Starks trying to forge a river to get to Tumbleton. What river?
Blackwater Rush.
Wouldn't you like to know? Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah.
The problem is Criston Cole's band of raiders with Born to Lose tattoos are doing the guerrilla warfare thing up and down the countryside. In Harrenhal, various groups of men keep showing up looking for Aemond, and Alice Rivers keeps telling them, Aemond who? And then they don't leave. She lets the castle walls do the talking. Also haunted, Aemond, who is in some room somewhere in Harrenhal having bad dreams that he knows are memories, while Alice gives him the old, if I inflict the pain, baby, only I can comfort you, which is the first time the Afghan wigs have been referenced on our podcast. Back at King's Landing, it's time for, in the words of Jonah Hill and Knocked Up, another schmishmortion on this.
Wow.
On this show. Dr. Orwyle with the plan B. This time for Halaena, who is with child at absolutely the wrong moment. But Halaena is listening to Papa Don't Preach in her room, and she's keeping the baby.
Wow.
What I didn't expect was for Mysaria to be creeping on this situation, catching Alicent with the potion almost on her person, leaving Allie no choice but to down the elixir herself.
Allie.
Mother knows best. In the C-suite, Rhaenyra is dealing with her usual band of bothers, including the Freys, who are mad about the Starks crossing the twins.
Not mad about being denied Harrenhal, which was promised to them.
You know, they have lots of things that they're mad about then. She says, do you let them cross the twins?
In exchange for Harrenhal, they didn't get.
She got dragon riders who can't find Aemon's dragon, a master of coin who is a master of gossip, a master of whispers who believes in healthcare for all, and a brother lover who believes in avenging the deaths of some gold cloaks found dead in Flea Bottom, even at the cost of publicly defying his queen. I gotta say, man, Criston Cole needs to stop listening to the Smiths. He is out there in the beautiful sunshine with his boys, the lads. They're burning up opposing camps and destroying river passages. Gawain is offering up a plum job.
Sounded wonderful,
Incredible
honestly.
benefits package.
Sign me up.
And what more could he want? A noble death, apparently. That's what he wants.
He heard that word serve and he said, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm out.
The Cole crew is chasing all over, trying to win an unwinnable battle as they hope and pray that Aemond comes to their rescue. But it seems like Criston views this struggle as more than just green versus black. It's haves and have-nots. And he thinks he's been sentenced to death by a power greater than the Targaryens. Right? Kinda, right?
I mean, I was waiting for you to comment on the leeches being on the thighs this time instead of on Gendry's dick.
I've already gotten that in text format, so it's lovely to hear it to a microphone.
While Criston accepts his fate, Daemon thinks he can root out and rest if he just cracks enough heads. Gold cloaks keep getting got, and it looks like this insurgency is being funded by Ormund Hightower, who continues to tutor Daeron T in a semi-creepy way. All this is...
Semi-creepy?
Well, you know.
You're remaining patient as you observe more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
You're
waiting for all the results to come in.
Ever the Team Green loyalist.
Sorry for not calling this election
really
like an hour afterwards. All this is happening while the actual king of the realm is still alive and well. And
How dare you?
Well,
you really are Team Green. This is outrageous. This
They didn't do the proper process of unseating him. Am I an Aegon truther? Perhaps. He is wandering the woods with Larys, pining after his not dead dragon, and perhaps taking the wrong lessons from Larys's pep talk. When the duo get back to the Rivermen camp, they meet up with the Lannister who wasn't beheaded. And as they plot their escape, Aegon is discovered by the camp bully, but Aegon still has that dog in him and winds up stabbing the dude to death, much to the bemused chagrin of Larys. And that was Jason Lannister.
No,
you're
so
close.
close.
Tylen
That was Tylen. Okay,
Yeah.
Jason got his head gone.
Yeah, very close.
Here's where we end things. Alicent and Halaena try to escape, get caught, try to escape again, only to get trapped in a secret passage. Daemon tortures the Hightower plot out of a flea-bottomed Denzian, only to find out that the rebellion has taken most of his beloved gold cloaks. Criston gives a St. Crispin's Day speech. Aemond and Alicent fanfic is being written, and Rhaenyra is spinning out as the line between friend and foe grows blurry.
Ooh, very good.
We back. Thank you, guys.
Damn.
Hello.
Hello.
Fun episode. I felt like, I was just saying before we started recording, this was like the best possible version of a season 2 episode.
We're marching.
A lot of people being like, we're on our way. Just you wait till I get there.
Yeah.
What did you think of the episode?
I really liked it. It did feel like a mid-season episode, but I think the advantage it has over season 2 is that they've done, first of all, characters are spread across the map. So we're sort of hopping back and forth between people. And they've done a pretty good job of installing characters that we care about at each location so that when we hop around, we're invested. Tylen Lannister lives. That was, I counted him out. Mallory was faithful to
I believe
him.
on this show, we were like, that guy's sincerely dead and so inessential that we didn't see his death.
Mallory from the beginning was like, no way Tylen Lannister is dead. And to be fair, the book supports her claim, but it's an adaptation. I didn't know what was going on. But he lives. Yeah. What do you make of his disguise? He's there in like velvets. How do you feel about his incognito Tylen Lannister?
He looks like a very rich, very fine lord, and I continue to think that almost everyone in the show could benefit from better disguises, though. Alicent traded a 7-pointed star necklace for the maid garb, and what good did it do her? They got four paces before Mysaria
2 maid
found
costumes.
them. Yeah,
I gotta say, fool me once, shame on me, but like it's or shame on you. But like Alicent just being like, God, I can't believe I've been betrayed by the staff at this castle for the 9th time. I wanted to start. Well, Mal, what did you think of the episode?
I really enjoyed it. I think the season's been great so far. And I think that the 4th and 5th episodes did feel different than the first 3 in terms of the spreading of the map, the number of characters, the moving across the board compared to these like massive grand declarations and set pieces, but in a way that I think feels like welcome and nice and probably in the middle of the season necessary. Yeah. I feel really confident that we're setting up for a strong finish here. Guys, this episode featured dozens and dozens and dozens of cats. The cats are here in the Red Keep. Alan's plan put into action immediately.
Has Phoebe
so
seen
that
the
they can get those rats. I'll be receiving a text from Phoebe about the cats, so that was very welcome. And I think just in general, Chris, I know in a second here you want to talk about the character sets, right? Yeah. And I think that thematically across those sets, the assessment inside of this episode, the study of balance of self-awareness and blame, right? When are you pointing the finger and blaming someone else? When do you have any ability to look internally and see what accountability and culpability you bear? But also, when is the person in the scene, in the storyline with you, speaking the truth to you? And then are you capable of receiving it? Yeah. Like, who is being coddled? Who is hearing a hard truth? Who is maybe in a magical castle where they are receiving a hard truth via slightly tweaked trauma dreams and then also being coddled and cradled in the fetal position, whispering mother. It's all happening. So that's very satisfying. Yeah. But I'm most excited that you didn't miss a big Criston Cole episode. We got a little Chrissy and Gawain last week, but I think if you had missed this one, which had far and away the most Criston and Gawain action of the season so far, it would have been a tragedy of epic proportions. So what's it like to be back? What's it like to be back with your boys?
Do you think they...
My boys? Come on.
Yeah. Do you think when they showed up in their matching war paint, do you think they put that on each other, sort of like face-off waterfall style?
Absolutely no question. And I'm just going to say, do we all have other pods immediately after this? Yes. Should we do it anyway for the bit for social?
Okay.
I think
maybe.
Consider would probably appreciate my makeup, I would imagine. I wanted to ask if we could put together these characters and sort of define what they're going after, their objectives, their their dreams, their hopes, their wants, because in a similar way that we did the Where Is Everybody a couple of weeks ago, I kind of wanted to do a check-in on like where are they in their character arcs.
How is everybody?
How is everybody?
Yeah.
Exactly. Because I think you've got Rhaenyra, who's looking for legitimate, and at any moment, jump in, debate me, cowards. Just let me know what I got wrong.
Boy.
But you've got Rhaenyra, who ultimately wants legitimacy and respect. Daemon wants to dominate. He's looking for dominance. Alicent seems to want escape and anonymity. She's like sort of completely shorn herself of royal fashions, you know, and it's so much so that she's dressing up like, you know, like a maid at the very end. Criston Cole perhaps wants the same as Alicent, but in a more final way. Alice, textually, she wants Harrenhal, but I think there's something greater than that she wants here, and I've yet to totally understand that, but I also find her quite a beguiling character. Aemond, he wants to sleep, perchance to dream.
I don't think he wants those dreams.
I think he is in kind of like a limbo right now, and what, you know, he's expressing some guilt, I guess, or at least some fear that
he's going through Harrenhal therapy.
Yeah, he's
exactly.
just like Daemon did.
Just like Daemon did, right. Aegon wants vengeance. Larys is maybe the perfect character for this world because he's flexible.
That Larys scene was
the look
incredible.
Of that, but also his exasperation when he's just like, oh,
you just stabbed him right here. Right here.
Now what?
Ormund wants power by proxy. Baela and Adam want acknowledgement. And Daeron, we don't know yet. Daeron is a cool character because as Ormund is doing all of this grooming, Daeron is just like, this is a little weird, and I don't know exactly where I stand here. You know?
He's like, is Uncle Gawain at Templeton yet?
Yes.
Where's Uncle Gawain?
And then within this, I think one of the cool things about the show this season is that there are a bunch of pairs of characters, right? So you've got Rhaenyra and Daemon together, Alicent and Rhaenyra together, Aemond and Alice together. In some ways, Daemon and Alice together earlier in the season. Hugh and Ulf, Larys and Aegon, Criston and Gawain, Ormond and Daeron, and each pair, they have some common ground. But within those pairs, there are schisms. Within those pairs, there are like fractures and fault lines where you can see like, well, Daemon and Rhaenyra ultimately want the same thing. And when they're speaking High Valyrian to each other, it seems like they're in a flow state about it. But
then Daemon pulls out of, well, I don't know if they're ever pulling out in the Targs, pulls out of High Valyrian back into the common tongue just to be like, let me insult you for everybody in the Sept who can understand me to hear.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there are...
Right after she was like, oh, the mighty Daemon Targaryen, they sing songs about you.
Real
What's going on
from
with
a marriage
you?
stuff.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Well, I also like the sort of like the way that some of these characters are paired just based on like theme, where you could pair Rhaenyra and Ormond together in some ways, because it's what she is sort of saying she wants, Ormond is actually doing. And was that patriarchy, or is that a willingness to just be...
He knows the PR game.
Reviled?
He wins.
Is it the advantage of being the opposer, the opposition, and the rebel, or the usurper? Like, what is it?
To a certain degree, but it's a war of optics. I mean, and this is what it's always been from the beginning when they crowned Aegon, and they're like, he's got the crown, he's got the sept, he's got all these like hallmarks, he's got the throne, like he's got the sword, he's got everything. He's got what we understand a king to be. And for Ormond to slap Daeron's face on the coin, which is not even what they do in Westeros, is like, I'm winning the branding game. Yes. I'm not only, having my agents sneak around and murder cops in King's Landing, but like I'm paying them with coin that's got Daeron's face on it. Yeah. And so I'm also getting the message out while I'm doing it. Yeah. And on that front, on that like big Ormond orchestrated Feast for Traitors moment that ends the episode, like we've been tracking sort of like how much this season of House of the Dragon feels like is leaning a bit more into the original Thrones tone. And I think this sort of like almost camp shock and horror of that scene, which is taken from elsewhere in Fire and Blood. There's like a different tableau that is reminiscent of that. But like those kinds of like, it's creepy and it's spooky, but it's like fun and shocking and a great way to end the episode. And the Ramin Djawadi score is giving us those like Winds of Winter organs. And it's just sort of like, you're like, this feels like Thrones versus something like Blood and Cheese last season, which just felt like bleak. This is bleak, obviously, to see a bunch of guys with their guts out on the table. But it's like the theater of it is just like
for sure.
kind of amazing. So
I think that the commonalities and shared intention or divides inside of those character sets is super interesting. But like the parallels across character sets was the most satisfying part of this episode to me. Like, so the coins, to stick with the coins for a second. One side is lamenting the empty coffers that they've arrived to find, has no money to run, even attempt to run the realm, has to go beg their nominal devoted houses and then be on the receiving line of a beggar with a tin cup, a dig last episode, right? Ormond has so much money, so many resources, so much gold at his disposal. He can mint his own declaration of intent, right? That is a notable distinction in circumstances. I was thinking back to something like Rhaenyra when she heard about Tumbleton in the first place after the fake Daeron reveal. The line was like, my arm is long. Like, he thinks he can get away with this. My arm is long. Whose arm is actually long currently? Ormond has reached into King's Landing through, and this was the casting of the actor with the two different colored eyes, who is the one sending the scrolls to Ormond. We recognize him. That's who Alicent, initially before Sir Frederick spelled the way it was, went to on the battlements to let Rhaenyra in. Yeah. So the idea of like being told to put your swords down, it's like, what is the purpose? What is the fight? What have you done with those people? Where's your army? Ormond has put them back to use. Also, by the way, that guy knows what Alicent did, which seems like very perilous for her. So there's that. I think the idea of strength was another one across Ormond and Rhaenyra, because you had Daemon, and Daemon and Rhaenyra are not on the same page about this. I think what you identified about legitimacy is the crucial thing for Rhaenyra, as is the continued mounting paranoia, which I think we should circle back to. But Daemon says, you're the Queen of Dragons. Your strength is your legitimacy. Ormond, who hates the Targaryens, who can't stop talking shit about dragons, acknowledges that they do in fact possess strength. That's why, and we'll talk about the Meria Martell stuff later, he's like, I really remark her and I revere her because she could challenge that strength. So he's not discounting they have strength. He's like, I can combat it.
Can I say on the other hand, though, so they're playing this chess-like game Zavos, which is from the book, which is like a really fun, cool thing that they've never done on Thrones before. They're like, we took this special game that George R. R. Martin invented, we're putting it on the screen. But there's like certain pieces that you have in a game of Zavos. And Daeron wins with a dragon.
Yes.
Like that. And so it's like,
so that's
Ormond,
what triggers him.
Ormond didn't see, just losing the game.
Losing.
He's a thin-skinned twat, as Gwen calls
let
him.
the Wookiee win, honestly.
Yeah, exactly.
But
like he wins.
Tear your arms off.
He wins with a dragon move, which just means that Ormond didn't see this dragon move on the table. So like on the one hand, he is espousing that he acknowledges the strength of the Targaryens. But on the other hand, as we've seen, he doesn't fully understand
or appreciate it,
what a dragon's strength is. And specifically as it comes to Daeron, his like dragon.
The shot specifically of their hands meeting on the dragon piece at the same time. This season's really been nailing some of the symbolism. It's not always subtle, but I do think it is conveying something very effective. So Daeron is like startled, reaches for it to say, we can start over.
Yeah.
Ormond reaches for it. Their hand, who can control the dragon? Ormond has literally chained Daeron's dragon to Sarian in this sept in Tumbleton. The shot of Alys of when Aemond wakes up and he reaches for the dagger of prophecy and Alys just like tosses it across the floor in Harrenhal. I was like, this is one of the quietest little best details that we've gotten so far. Aegon is carrying around a scale, a dragon's scale, and he's lamenting and he's mourning. Now, is what Aegon does good or wise when he stabs Janos with it? No. Does it feel notable that he does that with a symbol of his dragon power? Yeah. I think so, right? And on that, like across character sets, across duos front, Aegon and Aemond are doing the exact same thing in this episode. They're both blaming the other for their ills.
Yeah. Mother always liked him best.
Incredible. Yeah. Incredible Viserys Daemon comp there too with the mother loved you best thing. But like, they're both a little right and a little wrong because they both did horrible things to each other. They also both bear a lot of blame for the atrocities that they have unleashed on the world. So it's a very, very fun episode in terms of those pairings.
I thought one of the things that was really cool about this episode was at his best, I think George R. R. Martin is really good at taking historical moments or phenomenons from our world and translating them into a fantasy world to show them back to us.
Yes.
And the idea of an insurgency and almost like the power of an insurgency. So you can do things that the people who are actually in power can't do. There's a degree of like you can kind of play with house money, and in this way, like Rhaenyra is so concerned with how she's going to be perceived. You mentioned optics before. She, every time she's just like, well, do this. Everybody's like, well, then everybody's going to say this. And she's like, God damn it. Ormond is good at being like, I'm going to forgive. I'm going to punish my soldier for attacking a woman, then kill that woman's husband or brother or whatever, like in front of Daeron to show him what real strength is.
Make Daeron kill him.
And it doesn't even really feel like that's going to affect my like Q rating one way or the other. He's going to play into the fact that Rhaenyra is essentially broke. And he can go around and be like, hey, if we have a problem, go cut down more trees all the way, you know? He's not the king. Nobody's going to get mad at him like in the way that they'll get mad at Rhaenyra. So I really love the way that they're using, he's specifically going after all of her little like flaws. Everything, every hole in her armor, he's like poking at.
Yes.
And I obviously will probably drive her a bit nuts as she is a Targaryen.
Can I I won't defend Targaryens against the madness accusation again, but can I talk about this Meria Martell story that Ormond gives to Daeron?
This was the other cool thing. Was, this show sometimes nods to the show that will come. But this was a moment where I felt like they were telling us something about the story we're watching by going into the history of the realm, but also kind of telling us a little bit about what will happen down the line. And I loved it. I loved this moment. I also felt like putting Daeron on the coin was Ormond kind of being like, tell Cersei it was me. I want Cersei to know it was me. Yeah. It's like he knows that they know where Daeron is and who he's with, So anyway, please tell me a little bit about this story.
Well, I just think it's it feeds into what you're talking about. Like, I was thinking about when we were watching Andor and you and I were talking about like the French resistance homework we were doing and like so for Dorne, this is sort of like nobody can conquer Russia sort of story, the sort of Napoleonic winter campaign story in a couple ways, because there's all this sand expanse that you have to get across, and the way that like Napoleon's army is like, it's cold and we don't know when we're starving and we can't get there. And Hitler did the same thing. It's like, this is a reason why Dorne is an independent kingdom. It's come up a couple times this season. That's part of the reason why. But also Meria Martell as this canny strategist who, during Aegon's conquest, when they sent a dragon down to intimidate her, she's like, oh yeah, okay, sure, no problem. And when they invade bodily, all the castles are empty. And they're like, you take it. You take Dorne. Right. That's fine. And then once the dragon leaves and it's just the Targaryen loyalists there, the Martells come up out of the sand, not literally, but kind of, and just take back their castles. So the way that Ormond was like, oh, Daemon, you're going to take Daeron and I'm going to go home? Sure, no problem. Like, that's a real Meria Martell move. And then they also killed a dragon and Aegon's favorite, hottest sister wife, And so this is the legacy of Dorne, is that they brought down one of the original conquering dragons and dragon riders of Aegon's conquest. And it's part of why they were able to stay independent and negotiate with the Dragon House back and forth for so long. So this idea of like this woman who used her brain to outsmart by being outgunned, but outwitted the dragons, and just sort of like for Ormond to look at Dorne and say, these are the people who said, you have a dragon, I don't give a shit, and I'll figure it out anyway. That's no wonder.
Yeah, it also felt very Dune,
for sure.
The story.
Desert power.
I also like that it was a slight echo of something that happened maybe in the previous episode where it was a couple of episodes ago where Daemon is sort of trying to G up Rhaenyra, and she's like, let's go get Dorne.
Yes.
And it's like, well, this has been something that's kind of, it's been stuck in the Targaryen craw for a while.
100%.
The idea that this is the one thing they haven't been able to take.
No question. I mean, I think that the Arrested Development and Game of Thrones contingent in the audience will have a little bit of a narrator, like, eventually they bow, they bend, they break, which is part of what's interesting about it, actually. This idea that, first of all, there's just the, Ormond is such a Targracist, but he's also so sexist that the fact that the only woman in the history of the realm he can find a way to praising is one who outfoxed the Targs. And even then he's like, let me list all the things that really were like,
what an Ugo.
Yeah, boy, not a looker. Like, just classic Ormond, the character.
Didn't smell good.
I think the fact that he's like, Meraxes was a victim of this war,
this dragon,
is very clearly inside of the Ormond we've come to understand over these few episodes. The fact that he is not heeding the other part of the lesson, which I think is particularly interesting given that we have compared him to Tywin a lot. We've propped him up, I think rightly so far, including just what we've talked about today, as a PR and like strategic genius, right? Is he's not thinking about the Daeron question, which was a good one to pose. Hero or a villain? You know, the thing that you're describing sounds pretty fucked up and foul. And I think what's interesting is not just that Ormond and Daeron, of course, aren't seeing it the same way. Like, we understand enough about both of their characters for that to feel right. It's that the realm asks that same question. Meria Martell was greeted by many in the realm as a coward, and her tactics were considered deeply like base and treacherous, right? Not acting with honor. I think the fact that that is of no concern to Ormond.
Yeah, that's because they all bent the knee to the Targaryens and she fucked them up and took their hands and all this other stuff. Like, they lost.
Yeah, so
no
he's
wonder.
not concerned about being held in
She's
any sort of. I mean, yeah, she's a fascinating character, but he's not like, do I need to be worried about how like a campaign like that might be received? He doesn't, despite all of the like, okay, the people of Tumbleton are watching me receive this complaint. I need to think about that. He doesn't care about the broader implications of that because he thinks he, as a high tower superior man, is above any kind of ramification from that.
You know, the sort of nature of this episode was interesting because I missed last episode doing it with you guys. And we
missed doing it,
but there
with
is
you.
like almost like a weird kind of disorientation by not talking about it with you, where
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so all of these guys are kind of spread out, and they were all given original marching orders. I need you to go to Harrenhal. I need you to do this. I need you to go cut these people off. Or now we're going to turn around and go to Tumbleton. And I was amused by how much Raven action there was last week. You know, with just like, I got this new email. I got to check. You know, like I do feel like this is a real fog of war moment for this whole group of people, because there are so many people who seem to just sort of be like, I don't really even know what the objective is now. You know what I mean? Because we're kind of waiting for so much stuff to happen.
Criston certainly. Yeah.
Yes.
And Gwaine certainly. But like, I think what I love about this is you mentioned that this reminded you of a season 2 we're all marching towards something. But it's not just sort of like, let's not make it feel like nothing's happening between battles. So we have the Riverlanders and the Winter Wolves, which is, you know, the troops that Daemon told to march down to King's Landing, have now been redirected to Tumbleton. And that's the old dude and the young boy that you saw.
Who's the young boy?
That's Oscar Tully.
Oscar Tully.
The one who Daemon spent much of season 2 with as he was trying to win the River Lords.
And the Tullys are the twins? That's the phrase.
That's the phrase, yeah.
Okay.
So Tullys of
River
the Cat Stark house from season.
But the Riverlanders, when they did the fish feed battle at the beginning of the season, those are the men that Daemon was fighting with, right? And so they're on their way down, and Criston Cole's like, well, we don't know where Vhagar and Aemond are, so all we can do is slow their progress. And Gwaine's like, can we take a bath and a nap? I'm so miserable. So all Criston and Gwaine and the rest are trying to do is slow down or stop the progress, because they're outmatched. They can't fight them. Right. Slow down the progress of the Riverlanders and the Starks on their way to Tumbleton. But there's this guerrilla warfare back and forth between the two. Yeah. And then Ormond, as he waits in Tumbleton, is, you know, staging elaborate intestine feasts in King's Landing. So there's like fun, active stuff happening.
And meanwhile, we've got dragon riders who are essentially sitting there watching Tumbleton and could burn it to the ground. But that would essentially ruin Rhaenyra's reign.
Yeah, and that's one of the things Rhaenyra talked about last episode, right? This idea that a recognition, even as she was saying, what is this about? What is his plan? A recognition, undeniably, that Tumbleton raised Rhaenyra's banner. So Ormond taking that seat, not only is it geographically proximate, you know, we hear like there's no battlements. It's not fortified for battle. It's like trying to provoke her into attacking her own defenders, her own loyalists, so that she would be, you know, Maegor returned, is what she says previously. So that's in play still. I thought that like a visual like Criston being in the Vhagar dragon footprint was effective in a couple ways. Like thematically, it's a reminder of this thing that happened at Rook's Rest that triggered this massive change in Criston's circumstances and set him on this nihilistic stage.
His altered,
yeah. Okay, what does it mean to be a man in a dragon war world, right? But it also is just like helpful to think about the board and where the players are, because like we also see in this episode, Baela and, as you noted, Hugh and Ulf are monitoring Tumbleton, but Baela and Adam with Sea Smoke and Moondancer are out looking for Vhagar, and they're it's like, okay, 2 days behind, Wendish Town, right? Okay, here's some scorched earth on a farm. Here's the footprint. So it's not, everybody is like, you've been directed toward Tumbleton, or we're going to try to go and stop you as you try to hit your mark. Everybody's also like looking for Vhagar or trying to trace that path or crossing that path. Mm-hmm. So it's a question of who can get where first or get ahead of the other person. Obviously, I think very satisfying moment when Criston, who said, we'll be the scorpion on the ox, we'll be wraiths, fear is our standard last week, is like doing that effectively for a little while. And then is like, wait, fuck, are they the wraiths?
Yeah.
We got here and they beat us and the bridge is burnt and we can't cross. And then he decides he doesn't care anyway. And I'm excited to hear your thoughts as the world's leading Criston defender. But there are other areas where people could converge before everybody gets to the place they're actually trying to march.
Criston could also just be like, I did my best. Let's go back to Old Town. And I'm going to like...
but crucially, he doesn't. Yeah. Well, where are you on Criston? What did you think of this? Gawain makes him this offer, calls him friend a couple times. And Criston decides that's not the choice he's going to make. You love Criston, you love these two.
Serve our house there,
I don't
Gawain.
think he entertained it. I don't think he entertained it at all. I mean, yes, he probably committed a conversational faux pas by saying serve. But I think that Criston has decided that whatever he has done in his life and whatever he has seen with his eyes means that this is his last mission, like cumulatively. And like, whether or not he's damning other men to death because of that, and he could maybe...
Yep. I mean, he literally did in this episode. Guys are dropping dead in the mud as they're hiking, and it's just like, leave them there.
He's like, we'll swim.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about this sort of like original love triangle or quadrangle love square between Daemon and Rhaenyra and Alicent and Criston Cole, because like it's all very much in play here. When Alicent is talking to Mysaria and she's like, Rhaenyra chose Daemon long ago, and do you think she's going to pick you over Daemon? And the way that Alicent's talking about it's like so clear. This is what she says. She says, when his sun shines on you, you feel... No, that's Jennifer Garner talking about Ben Affleck to Vanity Fair. But basically, she's like the warmth of Rhaenyra's gaze. She's talking about this long ago original sin as she sees it, of Rhaenyra choosing to like have an incestuous love affair with her uncle rather than stay on the path with Alicent. And so that original wound for Alicent. And for Criston, Rhaenyra didn't choose him, right? And so he says they'll sing songs about it, and Queen Alicent will hear them. So like, he's put in, and Gwen's like, oh, buddy,
I know.
my God,
tough one,
And so like this wound that Alicent and Criston, I think, feel of like wanting Rhaenyra's love and not having it is such an interesting like mixer.
And I think Rhaenyra is the toughest character to dramatize in this show, because she keeps being trapped in like one room. You know what I mean? Like she keeps getting trapped in these situations where she's got this frustrating cabinet that she's negotiating with, or a frustrating lover that she's negotiating with, or a frustrating best friend. But like she gets so little action, right? She has to basically externalize a lot of her feelings about where she is and who she is, like to these different characters. And, I do feel like ultimately she's somebody who's just, the thing that she believes in most is what her father told her about her fate. And that's going to cost her a lot in this life. And it's going to probably cost her closeness and friendship and lovers and all these things. But she has one clear idea, which is that Dad said that I was the one. And
that has to justify all the bad things that have happened.
Points to her for not saying, Dad said I was the one, so I really can do whatever I want if it's in service of that, know?
I would posit that happens routinely. That every time she invokes the will of the gods, it is to that end, to say that my decisions are justified, even when
they were talking about the seven, and they're like, and he's like, well, like, if I'm queen, God wills it to be so.
Right.
Yes.
So this is then like the seven should be kissing my ass, basically.
If this is their will, then who dares stand in my path is a thing that Rhaenyra says in this episode.
On the one hand, but on the other hand, this sort of idea of half measures when Daemon's like, we should have burned them when we had the chance.
It's like, press the button then.
I mean, of course he's right, but also like the fucking gall. Like you were the one who took the wrong kid and didn't even fact check in real time.
Absolutely.
So incredible stuff from Daemon as always. But yeah, I think Rhaenyra's presence in absence is like such a palpable weight for all of these characters. I love that observation. It's particularly delicious to think of the invoking the specific passage that they use in this episode that they bring back. You know, it's the one from the 4th episode of season 1 that Rhaenyra snuck out into bowels of the pleasure den with Daemon. Why is it blocked? Why does Alicent find it blocked? Because of Hightower interference. The irony of this, of Alicent being undone by Otto coming in and trying to like put Rhaenyra on blast to Viserys. Hightower interference to try to stifle and suppress Rhaenyra is the thing that actually leads to that being blocked off now.
I couldn't remember. Is that like confirmed or did it? Is it
that it's the same tunnel? Or
no,
that's
I know
why
it's
they
the same
blocked it?
tunnel.
No, I'm just making an assumption.
An alternate
but
idea is that post Blood and Cheese because
that they blocked them all.
Different door.
Yeah, because
different
Blood and
right.
Cheese
That's
came in
room.
Aemon's room, a different door. But like that, I was wondering. I'm like, we don't know the answer. Was it because of Otto and Otto's like block up the princesses, sneaky go out to fuck her uncle passage, or is it like, hey, some rat catchers murdered the heir to the throne. Let's block up all the passages. Right. I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
There used to be some really handy wall sconces down there that were not there.
It's like
Alison and
either
Halaena.
way, it's like the effect of history reaching in to suppress and stifle them. I loved that in the Mysaria conversations, Alicent, I thought shrewdly, will it work out? I don't know, but shrewdly was like not just invoking Daemon, but also invoking you're going to trust a dragon rider?
Yeah.
Like just reminding Mysaria who we know, if we think back to Mysaria's original relationship with Daemon, like you're not one of them and you actually like don't want to be one of them. And they have a thing that you don't. The marriage proposal such that it was that Rhaenyra made to Daemon in season 1, episode 7 was like, we're made to burn together.
Yeah.
Alicent is being deliberate in her tactics here to try to survive Mysaria being on their trail here, on their case. But like, what she's saying is not wrong.
She's like, girl, she dumped me. She's going to dump you.
Yeah. And the sting of that, the way that you carry that through your entire life. Criston saying last week, like, there's no home for me with Rhaenyra on the throne. It's like, with Rhaenyra on the throne.
If Rhaenyra dumps you, you never get over it. That's just a fact.
I mean, it's interesting to see characters block off their own passageways. Like Daemon obviously betrays Alice, turns his back on her. She turns his back on him. He's kind of stuck, quote unquote, with Rhaenyra, who he's also lying to about Rhaena and Sheep Stealer.
To that Alice point, like she refers to Rhaenyra as the ungrateful queen in this episode, and
because she supplied her with the
because
she didn't give her Harrenhal.
She didn't get Harrenhal, and like that was Daemon in real time being like, fuck
I would
off.
argue that's Daemon's fault.
Yeah,
but
not
sure.
Rhaenyra's, but it's all kind of connected to what we're talking about today, which is so much of the blame, whether it's right or deserved, ends up falling on Rhaenyra because all eyes are on Rhaenyra, and she. This is to your point about like Ormond has the luxury of kind of operating in the shadows in a way Rhaenyra doesn't, even if the culpability is on one of her lieutenants. The blame is going to lie with her.
Yeah.
Alice, I'm sure, is also quite mad at Daemon, right? But it feels notable that she's like the ungrateful queen.
I wanted to ask you about one of the last shots of this episode, which was the sort of Last Supper of the gold cloaks and the graffiti up on the Feast of Traitors. Clearly, like something done to unnerve and take away from Daemon's sense of security as much as it is the Targaryen, like Rhaenyra's as well. But the gold cloaks, I mean, just for folks at home who may be more casually watching, what's the difference between them and say, well, there's the King's Guard, Queen's Guard.
Yeah.
Are the gold cloaks the same thing? Or
no.
Okay,
They're
so
They're
City
cops.
Watch.
They're the City
cops.
Watch. Yeah.
Okay, and this is when Mysaria is like, well, maybe they wouldn't be getting targeted if they didn't react to every infraction with like extreme violence.
Right. If they hadn't been like, we're looking for a graffiti artist, we're going to beat everyone, but also they're not getting paid. So the fact that Ormond has the intel that the City Watch, is being brutal, so the people will rejoice when the City Watch are killed in the street. That Daemon in particular is pissed off about this, and this is a real wedge between Daemon and Rhaenyra. I mean, it's just like a perfectly targeted moment. After, you mentioned Criston Cole's Crispin Day speech, but Daemon gives a big motivational speech in this episode to a room of people who will be corpses before the end of the episode, you know? So like, and Daemon is dealing with this, like, however much Daemon cares, it's unclear. I'm forever tracking what Daemon actually cares about, but it seems like he cared about Simon Strong dying.
Yeah.
It seems like he cares about Rhaena and her safety. And it seems like he cared about the Gold Cloaks. These are the guys who showed up for him when he stormed, the Red Keep. And we're like, Daemon gave us these cloaks. We're going to show up for him. And now they're all dead.
Yeah. I think that the way that Rhaenyra and Daemon in that wonderful sept scene, such a interesting and perfect setting, because that's a location we associate with Alicent and Rhaenyra across time, and then got a version of it in a different location with Daeron and Ormond last week. There's the comedy of Rhaenyra being like, Daemon, we're greeted with Daemon's laughter before we see him finding Rhaenyra. They're like pretending to pray, right? Because the faith rejected Rhaenyra, said, I won't, the High Septon's like, I'm not going to anoint you, what? Yeah. So Rhaenyra is thinking about what is necessary, but like, to what extent is that the right move to make here? The fact that in this conversation, they were talking about ultimately the same thing, which is this incursion into the closest thing they have right now in this place to an army, right? Because the Rivermen are still trying to reach them. 40,000 strong, still trying to get there, and also have been redirected. So like, get there when, right?
They just got to Oregon Trail their way across that river.
I know. Like, ford that river.
Cock the wagons, guys.
I mean, please. Sure. There's a circumstance that's undeniable. Daemon is like, men have done this, and men can be found. There's a practicality to the way Daemon talks about it that is, I think, of course, probably unmoored for him when he looks at the uncanny horror of the specter in front of him, even though that was staged by men, right? And done by men. Or that little girl who was sent to maybe kill them. Fascinating stuff. Maybe that's just one of the little birds for the other side. But Rhaenyra talks about it in the most existential, philosophical, religious, spiritual terms. Something stirs against me. There's this concession first, right? Because so much of the early episode from Rhaenyra is like, that small council scene, everybody's bringing up other points, and Rhaenyra keeps going back to Vhagar and Aemond. Vhagar. So initially there's a like, okay, yeah, the enemy is within, and I need to focus on that. But the way that Rhaenyra talks about it, something stirs against me. Something crouched, something formless. I feel the dread of it. Got like a chill listening to that. And I think we've been talking and using the word paranoia to describe the state Rhaenyra is moving into the last couple episodes. This is an interesting moment to consider that, because Rhaenyra is right. Yeah. Rhaenyra is definitely right. And so often paranoia carries this connotation of like, you're thinking that you're sensing things. It's basically what Daemon says. You hear the wind and you think it's an omen, right? Rhaenyra's right. However, that does not mean that those like tendrils don't root themselves so deeply into her that the paranoia that unfurls from there becomes impossible to contain. And then what is the cost? Because trust is already so thin.
I also think that if Mysaria winds up keeping Alicent's secret, then that's Daemon keeping a big secret about Rhaena from Rhaenyra, and that's Mysaria keeping
or finding out that even though Orwell's like, this is the last time I can do this, I've got to tell the queen from here.
Right.
He still did it, and he and Rhaenyra have kind of like been bonding.
Can we talk about Halaena for a second?
Sure.
I thought she was really good in this episode, and like I think they've done. I mean, I think Fia has always been really good as Halaena, but this is like my favorite Halaena episode and performance, and
because she was feeding the cats.
Probably. Yeah. I don't actually. We're trying to figure out what she was doing on the ground with that bowl. Perhaps feeding the cats, but like just. Fia talked in the behind the actress talked about in the behind the scenes, sort of like, this is the first thing that Halaena has that is her own. And that's like one of her lines in this episode. Yeah. But to like, and Van talked about this last week on Talk of Thrones, but like to give that character something that is hers and her motivation.
Beyond just like, I've had a vision, he burns, but there is no fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay, we have
so that was a sick line.
That was really good. And she's like, I've been visiting his dreams.
An
it's
STD?
fine.
What's going on?
It's entirely possible.
But for her to be like, it's mine. Like, it's mine, and you can't tell me what to do. And I just thought that performance was really good. And I'm just so like locked in on Halaena and what's going on with her this season.
And that's Aegon's baby.
We think so.
Pre-Rook's Rest before the cock exploded like a sausage on a spit. Nice timeline clarity there.
We got an email from a listener who's like, every time you guys say that anatomy is not your own. You can't talk about it that way. And I was
It's
like,
just canon. We're just quoting a line from the show.
My culture is not your costume.
I thought the Halaena Alicent plot in this episode was also a great portal for us to think about the role that lies play in this world and with these characters. Because as Halaena calls out Alicent, I love this. We think of Alicent as a very, not so often on her back foot and often put in unfair positions by other people, but a very composed, thoughtful, articulate character. The stammering in this is why it's actually going to be okay to leave Jaehaera behind sequence with Halaena. And Helena's like,
you look away
when you're lying. Like, I know that you're fucking bullshitting me here. Was so interesting because Alicent is trying to get out and is trying to save Halaena and has said that this is the most important thing in the world to her. Halaena has said she was happier before she was queen. Alicent wants Halaena to have something that Alicent herself has never been able to enjoy, which is a moment of fucking peace and joy. But if the path to achieving that is asking Halaena, whose son was already murdered in front of her, to do the thing that Alicent right now would do anything to avoid, which is like leave your daughter behind.
Sure.
I mean, first of all, it just tells us so much about the world that these are the choices and calculations the characters have to make. But like, when Helena's like, I'm not going to fucking do that. I'm not leaving Jaehaera behind. You're like, yeah, tell her. And how could she ask her to?
Does she understand, do you think, the magnitude of what's going to happen if they find out there's an heir to the throne inside?
Well, Alicent tells her as plainly as she could, I think. Right?
Yeah.
It's like Rhaenyra will kill that kid.
Yes.
So she says that to Halaena directly.
She's basically like, I would if I were her. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even like she blames Rhaenyra. She's just like, this is what has to happen when there's something like a conflict like this.
This is the undeniable thing that Otto prepared Alicent for the entire stretch of season 1 with the original cast, like the younger characters. I was thinking back to that sequence from the 5th episode when one of Otto's many ousters, right? He's on his way out of town.
This is the hands on the other side of the face moment, right?
Yes. And it's the either prepare Aegon to rule. Okay, but sub that clause for this circumstance. Sub it for anything, right? Or you cleave to Rhaenyra and pray for her mercy. Otto's entire also fucked up grooming to the hands on the face visual parallel we've been getting with Ormond, which Joe noted last episode. Rhaenyra and Alicent still have a depth of affection, but Alicent has been weaned for 2 decades now to understand that whatever personal love and care they have for each other,
they're on 2 separate sides.
Been directed toward a certain inevitable choice. Alicent said it to Rhaenyra in the 3rd episode, like, and we hear an echo of it in this episode, wearing the crown, sitting on the throne, it will make you do things that you didn't want to do. And Rhaenyra's like, I refuse to accept that. But Alicent clearly believes it.
Sure.
And it's some of it is about Rhaenyra. It's more about power and that position and the realm, and what the realm will demand of you. So it's very tragic because it's not like a dismissal of what she thinks is inside of Rhaenyra's heart. It's like, that doesn't matter because the stamps it out of you. It's like really heartbreaking.
The other plot line I wanted to really discuss with you guys was Alys and Aemond.
This is what I wanted to talk to you about. You just calling her compelling? Chris, I've never felt closer to you.
Alys?
Tell me about your Alys feelings.
Well, I just think that we just saw the Odyssey. Many people have seen the Odyssey by the time we get to this episode. And I like the idea of a time of apparent magic. And the idea of Alys being, in touch with the more like magical elements of this world beyond, dragons and such, but like knowing that like things happened to build Harrenhal. Yeah. And it explains a little bit more about why she wants to be the sort of landlord of that place.
Yeah.
And whether or not she's gambling at the end there, where she's like, these guys have come, and I think that if I taunt them, this time Aemond's going to come for me.
I definitely think she's faking damsel in that. Because when she just like, without breaking a sweat, calls all those bats earlier,
iconic moment.
Also incredible
Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, incredible sleeve acting from Gail Rankin, right? She's now got these like incredible sleeves on her costume and she's just like sashaying around with them. But like she has so much power. And so she just sort of like not only damsels herself in that situation that Aemond comes running out to, but like she gets grabbed and she's just sort of like, oh, and doesn't like make a single move to try to defend herself. I'm like, that's not the Alys I know.
I just thought it was, in the same way that Ormond is tutoring Daeron.
Yeah.
I think Alys is doing the same for Aemond, and by having him fell those guys, it's like, see, you still got it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the wound is healing.
Yeah.
And you're ready to kind of
what
now.
else is he going to get?
The two of us against the world. You know what I mean?
Mother.
The way that all of Alicent's children, so Aegon with Larys and Daeron with Ormond and Aemond with Alys, and then Halaena with Alicent herself. But like the hard truths that they're learning, or the way in which they are being cultivated to, like, what does Larys want?
Right.
From, what does it serve him to indulge or challenge Aegon here? What does Alys want if she's got Aemond in her pocket, right? What does Ormond want if he has Daeron in his pocket? So like the way in which these royal children are all being used by these other people around the realm.
Yeah.
They all think they're the king, but they're all the pawn.
It's also, worth noting, like when we were talking about Alicent being willing to sacrifice Jaehaera for saving Halaena and also herself. It's like, this is a person who, unfortunately, looks at many of her children and is like, you're an abomination.
Yeah, and Helena's the one
I don't really know you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like Daeron, like they're like, what's Daeron like? And she's like, I sent Daeron away when he was like 5, like.
She's like, he either has red hair or blonde. I'm not sure.
She said as much about Halaena a couple episodes ago. Like, she may be the one I can redeem. Like, it feels like it's very.
But I love that she's like, Jaehaera, not.
I know.
I guess not.
It is so tough. I mean, a lot of characters have, it's a different manifestation and version, but like, the parallel with Alicent and Criston of like, this is the one last stand I can make, right? Redemption in this fashion. Fascinating. Alys talking about the way the castle breathes.
She calls it her. She genders the castle too.
No notes. The life in the stone, the blood in the stone. To pick up the stone to summon the bats by like, before she picked it up and threw it, I was like, is she just like channeling the life force of Harrenhal? It was incredible to watch.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Unlimited power. And then like the fact that Aemond, when he comes out into the Godswood, there's a lot of, the dagger, the cat's paw blade, the dagger of prophecy has been cast aside. But he picks up Blackfire again, right? So there's still like a symbol of Targ power in his hands. But how does he kill the last guy?
Throws him on a tree.
Yeah.
Gives blood to the roots of the tree. So that's amazing.
It thirsts.
On the sound design front, we could recognize very clearly like the screams from Aegon being burned at Rook's Rest, the laughter of when he walked in on Aemond at the brothel with Sylvie. Those are real moments. And we're not inside of Aemond's head other than the fascinating cut to Vhagar's eye, which is very reminiscent, I think, of the cut to Cyrax screeching when Rhaenyra was in labor in the season 1 finale, in terms of the tie between Beast and Rider. And then it's like, well, why is Vhagar out burning? Is it because Vhagar senses it's what Aemond wants? Is it something different? But regardless, like, we haven't seen the specifics of Aemond's dreams. We hear him talk about it.
Do you think the show was like, they didn't love the Daemon dreams last season? Let's just give them a quick audio version.
I do think that's possible.
Guys, come on.
Yeah. I think that's why.
We got to get Aemond out of this bed.
But we know enough from the ample time we spent with Daemon in those sequences that it's simultaneously like real memories and actual trauma, but with a Harrenhal werewood pace.
This is why I was kind of wondering whether or not there was a degree to which Alys was phantom threading him a little bit.
Oh, no question.
100%. Eat these mushrooms.
Yeah.
And I will cure you.
Who are you? Yeah. I'm the one who has been grieved, which is like the description that was just issued about a mother, because she could deduce so quickly that Aemond has a mommy fetish and needs to be loved by a mother. He curls up against her bosom and says mother. I mean, it's like, probably still second on the list behind maybe literally drinking breast milk while being cradled in Sylvie's bosom last season. But, Aemond has the type.
Every time. It was just warmed up milk. It was warmed up milk.
Anything is on offer. And we know this from Littlefinger from back in the day. Anything is on offer at these pleasure dens if you ask.
Can I hit you with an Alys related and then related to another question you had for us, sort of sigil moment inside of this episode? So when Alys calls the bats, that's the sigil of House Harren, like Harrenhal, like that's their sigil. You asked about the traps that were on the ground that the horses stepped on. Those are they call them crow's feet, right? Yeah. But they're caltrops, and caltrops is the sigil of House Footley, which is the house at Tumbleton, Lord and Lady Footley. There's a inn there called the Bloody Caltrops, and that's definitely like a book reader moment.
Not sure if
that
that's
it's
a
like
big tourist
the
attraction.
Bloody Caltrops.
Not for you, not your vibe.
Why not? But
Seems like something you'd get in like lower tier Vermont, like
That sounds
I
wonderful.
would go to the Bloody
Yeah,
Caltrops in
sign me up for a
Vermont.
3-day weekend. That sounds
Absolutely.
great.
I bet they have like a great
Just
sort of
watch where you
plowman's
walk, though.
platter.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that's
Big soled shoe.
those are real. Those are like actually like a really fascinating tool of war because the way that they're designed, no matter how you throw them down, one prong will be sort of facing up.
all the horses just are like
done.
Yeah.
Dunzo.
Very tough. Yeah.
I had a couple of like little
Yes.
house cleaning questions.
Yeah.
There's a quick scene where the lady goes up to Rhaenyra and is like, Joffrey's back.
Yes.
Where was Joffrey?
The veil.
Why is he back?
the heir
Rhaenyra
to
called
the
him. I was
throne.
like, he's
Okay.
the heir now.
Okay.
So bring him back.
So she's
She's like,
let's
I lost
protect
another
him.
kid.
Yeah.
Let's
Gotcha.
bring
And
another
Jane Eyre
one.
to Daemon last week was like, you gave me a small dragon in the first place, and now I don't even have like
Right,
that.
Joffrey,
So
right.
yes, another retrieved pledge or
And
pledge that wasn't
Another
ultimately
sort
delivered.
of advertisement for Mother of the Year by her being like, I'm sure he's tired. I'm going to go.
I thought
like,
that was interesting given
I
the
feel like she's scared.
the real hold that the loss and very understandably the loss of Luke and then Jace has on Rhaenyra. To hear that Joffrey's back and not go, and then the mirror image of how fake Daeron ultimately, but how Rhaenyra watched
him
fake
sleep.
Daeron sleep a couple
Right.
episodes ago, and then
Is it
this
sweet now? Because you thought it was really creepy when she did it with fake Darren.
I don't know if I would say this was sweet. I thought this was quite sad. though.
Bittersweet.
Yes, I thought this was very, very like heavy
And
to
a
watch.
Question we had for this kid, because this kid has been like tiny, was are they going to recast this kid?
Right.
But it's the same kid, Oscar Eskenazi, the original Joffrey, back in the action.
Way to go.
Boy, yeah.
So now, just to set up next week, which we have not seen scenes from, so we don't know
No,
if
correct.
Yeah.
everybody is just
I'm-
like, oh shit, it's happening.
I'm
Or, like-
excited to see what the tease is because it does feel like potentially based on where we are in the season one, where we might be like, we wish we'd seen that tease when we
Yeah,
recorded Game of Thrones.
We're converging on Tumbleton, though, right? Like, there's a lot of action going towards Tumbleton. There's a lot of like, I mean, there's Tumbleton,
Yes,
and
but
then
there's
there's
ground
also
to cover before then.
Yes. Okay.
There's ground to cover before then.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we don't want to spoil anything. I had a lovely time being back, talking with you guys about this. We'll be back next week. Any final thoughts?
I guess I'm really curious to see how sort of the masses receive this episode, because I can feel like there's a version of response where it's like nothing happened in this episode, which
Yeah.
I disagree with, but I
Right.
think, some people might feel like it's table setting or wheel spinning, but like that's always when like the richest character work stuff happens. So.
If anything, I thought this was a very dense episode. It was just, it like last week maybe did not have a, and then this happens,
Yeah.
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Well, then a bunch of people were posed with their guts on the table.
Yes.
That's right.
Don't know what's going to happen to Alicent and Halaena in the
I
tunnel.
know. Concerned. Do you think they will
Follow the
follow
mewing
the
of a cat?
cats?
I hope so.
That seems.
I hope a cat
I mean,
rescues
the cat
them.
saves the day.
I think it's
Helena uses
entirely
her
possible.
animal bond to say, I hear a
Oh,
cat.
I was
yeah.
hoping Mysaria would help him out.
That's also possible. I think that's in the mix. I think to your dense episode point, like we didn't even talk. I mean, we talked a little bit about Larys, but like I don't know. I think I will tell you the truth. You were a terrible king, but worse than that, you are a terrible man. Is like one of the best lines and moments of this series to date.
And then they
it-
just share an apple afterwards.
Yeah.
Red apple.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk. Put a pin in that for the deep dive. Your boy Larys with a red apple,
He gave it to someone else.
but he had it,
Uh-huh.
which means he wanted it.
I don't know.
So yeah, like I don't know. That's just a great scene and a great moment, and you have like a lot of really good character beats inside of their dynamics, but also for each of their arcs inside this episode. So I have a similar question to Joe's. Like I think that there's so much PTSD from the end of season 2 and the lack of like that really big battle and moment, which I think we all agreed with and felt and was reasonable. But I wonder if as a result of that, there's like almost such a need now for these big moments, especially because everybody knows we only have there's just after this, what are there 11 episodes of the series left? Is that it? Right? That's like not a lot. So I hope that there's still room in people's hearts for the quieter conversations in rooms, which is part of what we
For
love
sure.
about Thrones in the
I
first
feel
place,
like
and the political intrigue.
This show is as close as to the original Game of Thrones series right now as it has been
I
to
really
me.
agree.
Yes.
And I'm not impatiently tapping my foot for a battle at the same time. I believe there will be a battle next week, and I believe there will be a battle in the
Yeah.
finale.
Yes.
And I I don't know about 7, but like, there's
Yeah.
at least like two
big
juicy
ones
battles coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mallory, Joanna,
Christopher.
thank you for joining me. Thanks to Aleya and everybody for producing us today.
What a squad.
And we will be back next Sunday for episode 6.